Oh, good. No.
Right.
So, Diane, really nice to have a chance to have a chat with you. We've known each other for some time online. We never met in person, have we? But we've been
No.
talking for a few years,
Yeah.
and we kind of wanted to. We found ourselves on an online post talking about abundance. So there was lots to
Yeah.
think about, wasn't there? So we thought, well, let's just jump on a chat.
Yeah. I was looking at things that challenges that I've been experiencing around money and finances, and I know that plenty of other people have been experiencing them too. So I just put it out there because whenever I share these things, it seems that other people are experiencing it, and then it creates a discussion and an open space for everyone to share.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you put a lovely comment on, so which was really helpful. And do you want to talk a bit about what you said?
Yeah. So I realized, certainly in my own journey with my own abundance, um, that I was, I guess, a history of a nice guy, um, but really with the underside of being a people pleaser. And whilst people pleasers will often walk around feeling that they're nice people, and they are nice people, and they're amenable and amiable and friendly and helpful, underneath it all, it's not always based on self-value. It's actually sometimes the reverse. So the feeling, the baseline feeling is, I don't have intrinsic value, therefore I'll be loved if I add value, if I make people feel better, if I make people feel good, if I give a lot of myself, then people will see I'm good, and then they'll like me, or they'll stay with me, or they'll invest with me, and so on. And it's not a bad logical idea, because it does mean people like to have you around. But what happens over time is that underlying value starts showing up. So it's reflected, that kind of people pleasing, or in the more kind of technical psychological term, codependency. It turns up in our bank account, or rather it doesn't turn up in our bank account. The bank account gets depleted. And I've been working on improving my abundance for a number of years, and but it was only recently when I was working with a client, and I got him to look at all the different projects he's doing and everything he cares about and everyone in his life. And it's a really cool exercise you can do, where you kind of create 25 boxes on a piece of paper, and you put all of your projects and all of the things you want to do and create in the world. And it can also include the people that you're maybe partnering with, and that can include employees as well. And so then you've got like 25 boxes, and this is just an exercise. And then you set someone the challenge of to take a pen, and they're going to have 10 seconds, and they have to cross out 5 things. And then you do that 3 times, and they have to they have to cross out things. Now, what's amazing is it's just a psychological exercise, but it's really hard to put a line through things.
Right.
But what you're left with is the most important thing.
Great.
But what I saw with this guy was he couldn't put a line through a person's name. He couldn't. And I see he had staff, but his staff were people that they weren't necessarily fully trained. So he was taking on good people and then trying to get them up to speed. So even though they were there in his company to make his life easier, they were a massive drain on his energy.
Right.
He also financially supported both of his parents, and he was also informally counseling like 6 or 7 friends in crisis, which included having phone calls with most of them at least every day.
Wow. That's intense.
Intense. And his reason he's coming to see me is like, why am I in debt?
Wow.
And we just looked at it, and it was all outgoings.
Yeah.
Energy-wise, it was all outgoings. And he was making loads of money in his business, but it wasn't sticking. And it was just like, why? Look, all this responsibility, all of this outgoing energy, all of this effort, all of this kindness, all of this generosity, but none for you. None for him. He was paying his mum's mortgage, giving his dad money for rent, but wasn't, buying himself new clothes, or, there was not, there are these phrases, like, generous to a fault. I used to think, someone said generous to a fault, I thought that was a compliment.
Yeah.
I thought that was just a nice way of describing someone that was super generous until I actually stopped and thought about it. It's like, no, this guy, he's generous to a fault. This is dysfunctional generosity.
Yeah.
And this idea that charity begins at home, right? It's like, if you're not resourcing yourself, then it disappears from your bank account. The energy reserves get wrong. So for me, it's like my journey with it. I started to really look at the things that I was doing, which was nice. So I still have some pro bono clients I work with who can't afford to pay me, but I've reduced them. I'm
Yeah.
much more boundaried about what can I afford to do time wise.
Yeah.
It's like I still give money to charity, but actually right now, whilst I've invested very, very heavily in building an app business, and that means on a business level, I'm in debt, and it's like,
Mm.
whilst I still have debt on that side, then being super, super generous from my personal funds to charity or whatever, or even slightly,
Mm.
it wasn't quite right. It wasn't quite lined up. I also would do lots and lots of what I call kind of speculative meetings or
Yeah.
speculative talking things, where I would go and meet with lots of people, partly to support them, but partly because you never know what might happen,
Mm.
intuitively following this response to connect with people, which is beautiful. And I loved it.
Yeah.
But when I looked at my month, I'd be like, hold on a minute, I've done like, I don't know, 10 meetings. If I'd spent that time just securing a few more clients, you know,
Yeah.
actually actively taking actions to find work and to find income, then, as opposed to blindly meeting people that might lead to something possibly at some point, because it was nice, it was like, and I didn't really like recalibrating it and changing it around. But it's made all the difference.
Yeah. I totally understand from my own perspective with um, my son and running the house and parents and everything. If you're not careful, your resources, your energy just will get used in places that maybe it would be better used somewhere else, and time just goes and you realize the week's gone and you've helped a lot of other people, but you've not done what you actually needed to do for yourself, for your own business, for your own energy. And we can't give from nothing. We can't even support people in need from nothing. And this was a realization of mine, that working with clients who can't afford to pay me, essentially, is I'm not helping them, I'm not helping myself. And this is what needs to be looked at, really.
Yeah, I
Just to
really do.
recognize that we've got to put ourselves first in these situations, particularly if we are our own business, our own work, if we represent our own work, to be careful how we use our time every day, and to be really productive with it, and to I'd like to be in a position where I've got clients who can afford to pay me, so that I can help those who don't have as much. And then there's the balance. Then you're making sure that you've got what you need, you're helping people, and then you've got the space to help others that don't have that. And I think that's a really nice balance.
Yeah, I agree with that, but it's definitely getting that balance right.
Yeah,
It's
100%.
like a friend of mine. He's a multimillionaire. Some years ago, said, "Tom, you're trying to be a philanthropist before you can afford to be."
Yeah,
And he's like, if you secure your financial base, you'll be in a much better position to do much bigger and greater good works later. He's like, you're not resourcing yourself properly. You're trying to do too much out and in, and I really get that. And yeah, a big thing for me is I do still work. As I said, I still do a bits of pro bono work for people that just can't afford it. I still do that. But in the main, I'm holding steady when and I do offer financial plans for people, so that when they hear my fees,
mm.
if they kind of gasp a little bit, or they find that, they really want help, they've heard about the work that I do, they really want to work with me personally, not one of my associates that's cheaper, then I offer them kind of installment plans. And I say to them,
Yeah,
what can you afford to pay? What can you afford to pay on a monthly basis?
Mm.
And then without stressing yourself out, it's horrible, the idea people would get therapy because
Yeah,
they're stressed out
absolutely.
and they get stressed out to pay their therapy bill, right? So, and then I would say, okay, well, what can you afford to pay me on a monthly basis? And then have as many sessions as you require. And then just keep paying on a monthly basis till your bill's paid off. So I'm still making myself available to people who would struggle to pay for my hourly rates
Mm.
every week, but I'm also maintaining my value.
Yeah, this is the important thing, isn't it? Recognizing and maintaining our value.
For them too.
Yeah,
For them too.
absolutely. For everybody, it's a big lesson for so many people to recognize that they need to value themselves. They need to value their work, particularly in this. I mean, I ran events, and that's kind of how we connected, wasn't it?
Mm.
And I never made any money with those events, and I did it for 5.5 years. I met some incredible people, and we had fantastic time. But it, and I even,
Cost you.
yeah, of course, and it even, I even gave places to people who were struggling, who desperately wanted to be there, and yet after that 5.5 years, I didn't make anything. So it was a massive learning curve, and it was very much about connection, community, but I wasn't honouring myself. I also did a huge amount of advertising for a lot of people. I don't regret anything. It
No.
was supposed to be that way, and it was beautiful, and it led me to connect with so many people that I'm still in connection with now.
Yeah.
But there was this lesson that I didn't set it up as a business model, and so financially, I spent a lot of time organizing it, and well, all the things that come with organizing events, it's endless, really. All the social media, all the meetings, and everything,
Yeah.
and it wasn't supporting me, essentially. So
It's an interesting thing, to make sure that within the DNA of every project, there's the financial powerhouse, right?
yeah,
The one thing I'm
absolutely.
really passionate about, as one of the things that I want to do within the charity I created, is to make charities really accountable for every penny that they're donated, right?
Mm,
So I'd really love to see in England is on the front of every charity leaflet and on the front of every charity website is the pennies in the pound, which is how many pennies in the pound I donate will actually go to the end user or the
yeah,
primary cause. Because I would really like it to be visible, because I think then it would drive charities to do what I think they all should do anyway, which is if they're offering service, right, then they
yeah,
have a paid for service that they can offer to local government or to entrepreneurs locally, or it's like within your charity have like intellectual property, goods and services that you can trade, so that you can have a sustainable model, so you can give from a sustainable base, right?
yeah,
And I think that's totally true for any, you're a social entrepreneur. You want to be able to sustain your lifestyle whilst giving back and making the world a more beautiful place, right? You're a
yes,
social entrepreneur,
absolutely.
right?
That's it. Yeah,
And that's a beautiful thing, but it's like, it's funny if you see kind of social entrepreneurs go onto things like Dragon's Den. The Dragons aren't interested, because it's like, well, hold on a minute, they want a for-profit model, right? Because they want to
yes,
see that it's unashamedly for you know it's for making a sustainable profit, and then you can do great. Lots of them probably give huge amounts to charity. They are philanthropic, but it's
mm,
been really, really clear about that engine has to be robust to go a long distance,
yeah, yeah,
and so when I used to run workshops, I would treat them as though they were these kind of free-floating marketing mechanisms. So I would kind of look good and show that I know what I'm talking about, and I would have this idea that then people would then choose to work with me.
yeah,
But I worked with a consultant at one point, and he got me to look at all my activities on my week, and the key kind of business strategies. And he's like, okay, so that's your client work and that's your marketing work. He's like, that's great. And they looked at it and he was like, where's your sales? I was like, what? He's like, where's your sales mechanism? I'm like, there. He went, no, that's marketing. He's like, it's sales and marketing because they're two separate things.
yeah,
I was like, no, I'm promoting myself. He's like, that's not sales. He's like, where are you actively converting? Like actively speaking to people saying, hey, would you like to work with me? It's like, Oh no, I don't do that. I just try and look good in the corner and hope people will see me. Some kind of cosmic magnetic mechanism. It's like,
Yeah,
people rarely feel super easy about parting with money. They need to be cajoled
yeah,
at the very, especially if you're charging people the kind of money that would mean that you can sustain a nice lifestyle.
yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
it's not, £30 for a workshop. It's proper. And therefore that you need to have a process of communicating with them, which takes your time. He did this great thing. He's like, well, if you have downtime in your client time, then you have to look at any time when you don't have an hour filled with a client. That's an hour you fill with getting clients.
Mm,
So I was like,
right.
wow, because I could have had a client and been busy. So instead of doing other admin, dedicate, either have clients or have the time when you should have clients getting more clients. And it was just, for me, I don't always do that, but what I got from that was like, oh yeah, I didn't have this active sales thing. I didn't have this active ask for the money bit, and I guess it was
Yeah.
my spiritual sensibilities. And so bit by bit, and I think the game changer for me was the brilliant book by Marianne Williamson called The Law of Divine Compensation.
Ah, not heard of
It's
that.
her it's her, I think it's Money, The Law of Divine Compensation, or something, or Abundance or something. Anyway, it's one of her
Right.
books. We can put a link up with this later, but
Yeah, it's a good idea.
brilliant. For me, reading that really just took all of that weird spiritual thinking, poverty, spiritual thinking stuff out. I've been working
Yeah,
on it for a while, but she was like, money is evidence of a job done well. And the
of
most
course.
and the most amazing thing you get to do with money is reward people doing a good job. So you get to go and reward the local sandwich guy that makes amazing sandwiches. You get to
Mm,
reward, an incredibly good, like, graphic designer, or your money is this kind of well done energy, and you get that for doing a good job. And it just really changed it, and that really, really helped me get really comfortable asking for money, because then I get to have it for myself, as a big thank you for having done cool things in people's lives, and I
yeah,
get to then spend it on people who are making people's lives better with their goods and services.
that's it, isn't it? What when we have money coming in, we can decide where we want to spend it, and so it creates change essentially.
Yeah.
The money that we receive creates change, especially if we're conscious entrepreneurs. We're conscious of where we're spending that money, and that's what makes change in the world ultimately. If we're all spending in that way, we're all helping to change things.
I totally agree. I totally agree. And I also think as well, in the work, when you're still doing one-on-one work with people as well. I mean, my rates are still based on an hour of my time, but
Yeah,
for me, they're charged according to the results that I'm going to help someone get and the value of that result. It's pretty hard to justify on some levels £200 an hour in some people's world,
yeah,
if I know that in a handful of sessions someone's no longer blocked around receiving love, and then they go on to meet their lifelong partner. It's like, for £1,500, that's, price of less than a holiday. That's good value, right?
yeah, yeah. I see what you're saying. This is something that I'd found really challenging over the years, is how much to charge, how long to work with people for. And I've done sessions where I've been paid a minimal amount and spent 2 hours with somebody, and then felt really like, how am I supporting myself? This can't
Range,
continue.
right? Yeah.
Like, I've given too much here, I'm not giving to myself, and maybe
Yeah,
they've not
right.
even received the value because the energy exchange wasn't right. So
Yeah.
it, yeah, it really comes down to that valuing, or and it's not just the hour, is it? It's all our experience prior to that. It's all the training we've ever done, all the learning, all the traveling, all the
Agreed.
experiences, all the business experiences. It's everything that we've done in our lives that have led up to that moment and working with that person. All our experience, everything.
Yeah,
So,
I
and you
totally
can't
agree.
put a price on that, really. We try to, but essentially it is priceless, because it's a unique exchange. There's nobody like you, there's nobody like me, and all the others that are doing this kind of work, we're all unique. We all have our own flavor. We're all giving of our own essence, from our own experience, our own perspective, you know, and it's powerful. It's,
Totally agree.
yeah.
I totally agree. I once heard a brilliant story about a guy who owned a printers kind of print company, right? And so he's got these really old big Hasselblatts, you know, they're like these massive printers the size of a room, you know, and they're like worth £500,000, these printers, you know, they're amazing things, you know, meant to be the best printers in the world. So I may have pronounced that wrong or remembered the name incorrectly.
Yeah.
But anyway, one of them apparently breaks down, and he calls this consultant to come and fix it. And the guy gets out his stethoscope and he's listening to machine, and it's not making the right noise, and he's clambering on top and he's doing his things, and then he says, I think I know the problem. He goes to his bag, he brings out this big kind of rubber mallet, and then listens, and then whacks it at this certain place, you know, whacks it. He says, now try it again, and then the whole thing just purrs like a beautifully tuned engine. And the owner's thrilled, right? Because downtime in a big printer shop will cost him thousands. Thrilled, and can't thank him enough. And he says, oh, now give me your bill. So he hands him a bill for £500. And the man's like, hold on a minute, £500? You just hit the machine with a hammer. And he's like, oh, would you like me to itemize the bill? And he's like, yeah, sure, itemize it. And he's like, so then he hands it back to him, and then it says, hitting machine with hammer, £50. Knowing where to hit the machine with a hammer, 450.
Oh, that's great. I love that.
You know,
that's it. That's the value, isn't it?
Yeah, you know, but you know what? Sometimes people say there's this kind of story that if someone gets something for free, they don't value it, but it's not as simple as that. So I'll give you an example. I have a friend who works in A&R in the music industry, right? So his job is to go and find cool new bands to sign or to try and sell to record labels, right? This is some years ago, and he's got great taste in music, as you'd expect, and he knew my taste in music, right? We always bonded about great tunes, and he'd always play me these amazing music. But he came to visit this one time, and just as he was leaving, he's like, oh, I've got something for you. And he handed me 6 albums, and he says, you will love those. You will love those as a gift. I just know you'll love them. And he gave them to me. Now, if you said to me, do I value those? I would tell you I definitely do, right? I believe in him. I believe he knows me. I think those albums are going to be brilliant. In fact, I know they're going to be brilliant. Do I value them? Totally. Highly. I didn't listen to them for a couple of months. Now, it's not because I didn't value them. It's because I didn't have value invested in them.
Right. Yeah.
It's different. I hadn't got involved in the energy exchange. I wasn't invested. So it's not a lack of sense of perceived value. It's in order for us to be involved in the transmission and the exchange, we have to have skin in the game. And that's where I realized all the free work that I was doing was causing trouble, if anything, actually.
Yeah.
You know, because I'd also, like you, I'd like, if I had someone in front of me and they might be paying me hardly anything because they couldn't afford it in the beginning when I started practicing, but then I didn't have a client for a couple of hours, I wouldn't stop at the hour. Because I'm just desperately trying to pour value in them. I could literally feel the energy being leached from the marrow of my bones. But I would still try and help, you know? Yeah. But it's like, it's not boundaried, it's not helpful, it's not useful. And if they can come and get free, unconditional love, why do they want to change?
Yeah.
They're just going to suck up that love and not be involved in changing because they don't need to. It's enabling.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I actually think I made people worse with that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's a challenge when I'm working with young people because I believe the young people should pay something for it.
Yeah.
And I don't always enforce it. It depends. If it's short term, maybe not so much. But the other day I had this amazing experience working with an 8-year-old girl. Her mum was obviously in the room and we were talking. And we did a tiny bit of inner work, but it was just talking to her about her feelings about how she felt when her little brother came along. Classic firstborn kind of feeling usurped and a bit frustrated and a bit angry at mum and not feeling safe, so she wasn't sleeping very well. And we had this lovely conversation. And at the end, she was I don't know, she's one of those 8-year-olds that seemed incredibly bright and incredibly mature. She was like a mini little adult thing. It was just brilliant. I think it's important to talk to young people as though they're complete and whole beings, because they are.
Yes.
They just
Yes.
don't have the life experience or the vocabulary. But this girl was brilliant. And at the end, she paused and she said very politely, I really want to thank you for today. And she went,
Oh.
hold on. And she went into her bag, which she had with her. And she hadn't, apparently, I checked with mum later, she hadn't bought this to give to me. It was hers, and she was expecting to eat it. She went to her bag and she pulled out a Whisper chocolate bar. And she handed it to me and she says, I would like you to have this as to say thank you for today. And it was like, if I think about her proportional wealth, that was one of my
Yes.
best paydays ever.
Yes.
Ever.
I was just going to say that. That's like a bar of gold.
Yes,
A
totally.
child giving you their chocolate
Yeah,
bar.
that was like, it's like, it
Wow.
was, I was like, that was well worth it, well worth it. I
That's
mean, I did also charge
adorable.
her mum as well, obviously. But I don't know, there was something really important. Like, she knew that was important. People have to be invested in it. And I remember I was once, this is many years ago, I was at this networking event, and a woman came up to me at the end. I'd done a little talk, and she was like, "Oh, I'm interested in getting a coach," and this is when I charged £60 an hour. And I was telling her, and I was doing my bit to lay out my kind of impressive stall, And then this really big, tall, like American dude, like kind of ambled up, as people will in a networking kind of,
Yes, that environment.
just. And she went, "You're a coach." She went, "I am, but I'm incredibly expensive. I have no space for any extra clients, but I'm happy to tell you about what I do." And it was like I evaporated. I became
Yeah.
invisible. And she, wanted to know everything about what he did, And, and, and afterwards I spoke to him. I was like, we're charging, at that time he was charging $250 something. He lived in Thailand. He did everything over Skype. So he was
Great.
living in kind of third world kind of luxury, charging, Western world prices. So he was doing very well for himself. And he said, the thing is, like, people have to take action. And if they're spending $250 to get advice from you and guidance, after that, they're going to take action. But if you're just charging them £50, then they'll think it's nice, but they won't feel motivated or energized to follow through on what they need to do.
Yeah.
Then they'll resent you for not helping. He's like, they pay a lot for me. They take action. They get results. They're happy.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the other thing is, for a while I felt that just offering one session at a small price was the best way, and I realise now that people get a lot more value if they work with me over a period of time. I don't want people to be reliant on me. It's not about creating that codependency, but it's about being able to move them through different stages of whatever that issue is, and them receiving value and being able to give value but not overly give, not giving too much time so nobody's getting any benefit, but just to work with them and go deeper into the work over a period of time.
Yeah, be honest about that. Real transformation, there's a lot of layers to go through.
Exactly.
You can in one session kind of crack the nub of something specific, one behavior or one habit. That can happen. But really, the deepest personal development, we're all still doing it. We'll all be doing it for years. So to have that one coach there, that one spiritual guide or advisor or supporter, it's valuable, and it's worth getting them to recognize the value of investing in that long term without being dependent. But it's like, having the confidence to be clear on that. I know some people, they won't work with people for one session. They'll only sign them up for a minimum of 10.
Yeah.
And starting cheap. You can't give a cheap session and then expect them to pay more later on. So for a while, I would do a cheaper session at say £200, and then I'd be like, but I want you to sign up to my kind of 6-month master blaster, and then if they looked at it, I was charging them equivalent of almost double that per session. And it's like, well, your next package up where I'm buying bulk it's a different. Surely the one-off should be unbearably expensive, and then if they sign up for 6 months, then it becomes a bit more affordable.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So I've been playing around with this pricing and how to offer, how to package things, and to some extent I'm still doing it now, but I've got a better idea of the way forward now. After a lot of learning, a lot of learning curves, huge learning curves, financial learning curves, time learning curves, everything.
Time, right? I think the other thing I learned, which has made a big difference, which is I made a kind of agreement with myself to not partner with people on anything, big or small, one-off events or anything, unless they were successful.
Yeah.
Because previously I partnered with loads of people who were kind of in a similar boat to me, who were good people, who had good skill sets, but they hadn't quite cracked their formula, hadn't quite cracked their model. Yeah. And they were all still speculating, and their energy was, skint.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, why partner with people that are successful? Partner with people that know what they're doing and they've got a proven track record.
Yeah.
They're bringing an awful lot of experience and wealth, to it. It takes, a lot of funds sometimes to create things that are going to work. You want the energy of abundance, people, that proven track record is really helpful. It's really helpful.
Yeah, I agree. It is helpful. It's not something that I'd like, very much like you. I just used to, well, just go with the flow, work with anybody, or especially with my events, I was really keen on bringing people in who perhaps others hadn't heard of as well, and giving them a platform. So I was kind of giving them a platform, but not thinking it through, and not creating. I could have created other workshops and things around that, but I just didn't. I didn't have the awareness at the time.
Yeah.
And I often didn't do very much at all myself. People would say, so, okay, so you're doing this event, but what do you actually do? We don't know anything about you. We just know that you're creating this space and you're bringing in all these other people and you're advertising them and helping them. But what else are you doing? And it was like, I heard this so many times. Eventually I was like, yeah, this is a really good point. What else am I doing? How else am I?
A platform to promote yourself, but promoted other people.
Yes, exactly. I mean, talk about...
Because it's okay to take a hit on a promotional event as long as you're part of what's being promoted.
Yeah.
I mean, I think nowadays a real place where you're getting real bottoms on real seats is, in the world of the internet now, it's easier to just do it online in that sense.
Yes.
So promotional webinar doesn't cost you as much. And
I agree.
As the expert doesn't cost as much. But it's like, you see it. It's a good model. People will book Richard Branson and they'll book, Deepak Chopra, and they'll get 4,000 people at the event, and then the people who put the event also share the stage with them.
Yeah.
It's like, there's a guy called Andy Harrington that does that, and he sells like millions of pounds worth of speaking things because he's sharing that stage, and he's got, the 3,000 people in the audience pay Richard Branson's speaking fee. Yeah, so it doesn't cost him.
No.
And then he's got the profile, the prestige, and more importantly, the numbers, and he knows. He's worked out his model, how to sell from stage. He's got that down. Some of it's pretty manipulative, some of it's pretty impressive. But whatever, he's literally selling millions of pounds worth of courses from an hour-long slot. Then it's worth paying Richard Branson to come and do something profile. So promotional workshops can work, but as long as you include yourself in the bill.
Absolutely. That's it. Really hope, I'm sure this discussion is going to be so helpful for people who are listening. We've had to go through this stuff. So,
totally. I mean, I think certainly, I think something that has to be said for it to be at least a semi-complete conversation on abundance. I think the most important thing people can do to change their relationship with abundance, it's been a real game changer for me, was just looking at self-sabotage.
Yeah.
When we're younger, when we don't get our needs met, we don't like to blame our parents. We choose to blame ourselves. And we choose also to believe it's just normal. People won't see us, won't value us. It's not their fault. It's me, and also it's just everybody. Everyone does that. So those two beliefs, I'm not worth it, and this is normal.
Yeah.
Protect us from disappointment when we're a child.
Yeah.
But unfortunately limit us and lock us in a worldview where our value isn't being seen and people aren't coming to us and with what we want. And we perpetuate that. So until we've cleared the energy of I'm not okay, and I'm not of value based on our childhood experiences, then it's going to be really hard to live abundantly. And that's the thing. All this other stuff probably happens because of that. So it's
Yeah,
good to share with anyone that's listening to this all these practical things. But the deepest work and the thing that makes the actual difference is getting the self-love to the young part and helping that part just feel its disappointment and
yeah,
realize it wasn't its fault.
totally.
Most people have already come to terms with their carers, have already forgiven, have done all the meditating and the spiritual work. But the problem is the inner child hasn't admitted it to itself. We
Yeah.
can't forgive what the inner child hasn't first accepted.
Mm.
And so for anyone watching this that's struggling with their abundance, then find themselves especially pushing away opportunity, not asking for what they want, over
Yeah.
pleasing, all that
Yeah.
stuff, then there's probably a really beautiful bit of sabotage there. And I say beautiful because sabotage is always coming from a part of us that wants to help, but it's just really out of date.
Mm.
And I think that's really, it's important.
Yeah, it's the old patterns, isn't it, that we've created to protect ourselves, or that need to be released so that we can be the fuller version of ourselves, the fullest version of ourselves, essentially.
Agreed.
And
Agreed.
own our worth, own our worth, own our value, share that with the world, which is why we're all here. That's why we're doing this work.
And I know that's what you're dedicated. When we first spoke years ago, I got immediately your care and how much you want to help people free themselves from these limitations. So, would you maybe take a little moment just to talk about what you offer, so that in the name of abundance, stating the
Yeah.
value you have to share, so that people can get who you are and what you have to offer and what you're worth.
What I'm offering now is one-to-one sessions. I'm offering darshan, which is a divine blessing and helps people to see with new eyes. It helps people to see life with new eyes, through the heart, maybe not so much through the mind. It's transformational, the work that I do, because it helps with so many different things: anxiety, stress, all the things that we experience in life. It helps to reduce those, but the main thing is it helps to awaken the being within us, so that everything, all the potential for that person, can be brought through into their lives, in as many, through relationships, through work, through their purpose as well, essentially. And that's what I see when I'm working with somebody. I see their potential. They won't necessarily see it, but I can see it. And so thank God for that, being able to see that and to guide them with that, and to help them to see where they want to be, what they want to be doing, how they want to be living, and just to create their dreams. I've been a good example is my son, and I've supported him since he was very young on this journey with football. And he came to me when he was 5 and said, "Mom, I really want to be a footballer." I already knew this, but to hear it from him at that age, "Will you help me, Mom?" And I said, "Yes, I'm 100% behind you. For as long as you want to do this, I'm there supporting you." And he's been through ups and downs. And when he was released from a club when he was 14, he went through an identity crisis, massive identity crisis at 14. And you could say, we had a time where he'd gone off the rails, and I was holding him in that. There was a part of me that wanted to run away because it was so difficult to deal with. But I recognized that he was in the depths of suffering, and so I needed to hold him in more love and support him to be this better version, this better version, this who he is, essentially, this better version of himself. And he said to me one day, "I don't know who I am anymore, and I don't know what I want." And I said, "That's actually okay. You're young, you've got time to figure it out. It's okay not to know." That's actually when the shift starts to happen, when we acknowledge that we don't know, we're not sure what we want. Maybe what we're doing at this particular time doesn't actually feel great. Maybe it's really stressful. and just sticking with him on that journey has been, you know, it's been a learning curve for him, that I'm always there, that I'm not going anywhere, that I'm fully available to support him. But also in that support has been his growth, his understanding, a deeper understanding of who he is. And you know, he's got an incredible mind, and he's so focused, and I'm so proud of him, actually. You know, he's done a lot of work himself, but I've been there to kind of hold him in that change and in that transformation. And that's really how I also work with people, ironically, is when people come to me, I hold the space for their transformation. Really, that's what it is.
Beautiful.
I'm being the presence and the listening, and I will also, you know, offer feedback. And so, yeah.
That's beautiful. That's really, really beautiful.
Thanks.
So for myself, I really honor and respect what you said there. Share a lot of those values. For me, I do still do one-to-one work with people. I have less and less time for that now, and my practice is ostensibly at the moment full. But my greatest passion is, I love the value of talking therapy and helping people analyze what their challenges are. But for me, it is only when we can get to the unconscious that we can really make transformational shifts. So I'm really passionate about teaching my clients transcendent meditation techniques, which combine with motivation and music to really energize creating change and shifts quickly. And so, but my greatest passion is teaching other therapists how to incorporate that into their work. So they may be trained counselors or psychotherapists or Reiki people, and I'm like, you know what? There are 6 transformational meditation techniques which you can incorporate into your toolkit. That I realized for the last 15 years, I've only ever been really using one of these 6 techniques, because they're the things that create the most change. So I'm really passionate about sharing those, teaching therapists in short courses how to incorporate that so they can massively amplify their results, be more abundant, and help people more quickly. But the thing I've been working on more recently is, for the last few years, I've been building an app called the Free Mind app.
Right.
A library at the moment of 250 guided meditations, all set to really beautiful cinematic music. And they're built around these 6 techniques. And so lots of short meditations, long ones. You can go light and just have a boost for your day, or you can go in and do some of the deepest healing on yourself. So I'm really excited to let people know about that. So.
Yeah, meditation is it's the core of this work, isn't it?
Yeah.
Bringing people into presence, into that awareness where all the divine intelligence is open to them, then that's where you get your answers to.
I totally agree. You know, just with a few little tweaks, you know, you can really learn how to engage with that information to get it to work for you. You know, it's powerful, but it's basic, and therefore you have to learn how to be able to work with the information there to get it to create change. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you have to be willing and open to listen.
Yeah, and to courageous enough to take the actions. Huh?
Exactly, take action. That's the next thing. Yeah,
and value yourself. Yeah.
And value. Yes,
that's good.
Absolutely, that's what it's all about.
Awesome.
And I hope that people listening to this will let that message drop into their being, that it's all about valuing, no matter what they've been through, what their experience is, because we've all had some trauma on some level, and we've all had different experiences that have created this idea of lack, that we're not worthy, and so we are worthy.
Yeah, I like
every
to say
single one of us is worthy.
It's not that we get to be great in spite of our past, it's that we get to be amazing precisely because of it. You know,
yes.
All those blows and difficulties, that was our character in development, you know.
Absolutely.
It dares us to close our hearts, right? And our job is to stand again, open our hearts once again, and to trust that all of that is what's required for us to do what needs to be done in the moment, you know.
Yeah, beautiful.
All right, well listen, let's call that a day, and lovely talking.
So lovely to talk to you as well.
And good luck with everything. And
thank you. And you.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.